In this video, we'll see about how to work with recording a macro. Recording a macro, as the name says, macro is nothing but a piece of code which is written into a VBA editor. It is nothing but simply set of instructions, a piece of code. Recording a macro is useful at many places, but to some extent. As I said, there are two methods. One is just record a macro for people who don't have the knowledge about coding, and second is for people who have the knowledge about coding. They can simply write the instruction, they can write a simple code to execute the macro or to execute the steps. So in this video we are seeing about how to record a macro. Various methods are there to record a macro. I'll show you a simple method. But what we'll be doing with this macro, what I'll do is I'll record this active cell. Wherever my cursor is there, that is known as active cell. I want to format, or I want to color the background color as yellow or red, that particular active cell. And this task I want to repeat again and again and again. I can just do by simple method by clicking on this place and coloring the background color, but I don't want to do it manually. I want at the backend a macro, a piece of code should do it for me again and again. So let us see how do we do that. I'll go to developer tab, click on this record macro button. Before clicking on this button, make sure this button is selected. Use relative references. Relative references says whatever task you're doing on this particular cell, same task should be done on the corresponding selected cells, not on the same cell, but other selected cells also. So select this particular button here, use relative references, and now you can click on this record a macro button. When you click on this button, you'll be getting a dialog box. By default, the name will be given as macro 1. If you do it for the second time, macro 2, macro 3, macro 4, and so on. Now, I'll just change the name of this macro as color macro, a simple macro. At the bottom, there's a shortcut key. If you want to give, you can give it. Otherwise, leave it empty. Right now, I'll give the shortcut key as Shift O. I'll press from my keyboard as Shift O. Now, the shortcut for this macro is Control Shift O. Store in macro in this workbook, personal macro workbook or new workbook. For this example, I'll simply select as this workbook. Below this workbook, there's a description dialog box. If you want to notify some user what this macro is all about, you can just write here. This, I'll just write as this macro will color the cells into red color. Okay, and after you finish writing this details about a macro, your shortcut names and your description, click on OK. When you click on OK, the name of this button has changed, and if you see, it says as stop recording. This means that the recording has started and you're ready to record. Second option, if you see at the bottom, it says ready and there's a stop button. It says a macro is currently recording. Click to stop recording. So when we finish doing the task, we'll simply click on this stop button. Now, my active cell is A1 cell. I'll go to Home tab and I'll simply select this yellow color here, and that's a task which I want to do again and again. Selected is yellow color and I'll simply click on this stop recording. I'll do nothing else, a very simple example here. Now, if I want to execute the same steps again, that means coloring this background with yellow, what I'll be doing is I'll simply keep my cursor anywhere, go to developer tab, click on this macros button, and here if you see the same macro is selected, that is color macro. Select that macro and click on this run button. So when you click on this run button, if you see that particular cell has been colored into yellow. Again, go to macros, select this run button, and if you see that has been selected here. Now this was the lengthy method to execute a macro. If you want some shortcut, you remember we have given the shortcut Control Shift O. Control Shift O was given for that particular macro, and it will color or it will execute that particular code. Okay, if you see, I'm pressing Control Shift O from my keyboard, Control Shift O, and the cells have been colored into yellow place. So that was a simple example. Like this, you can keep on working on different things like sorting, filtering, formatting, etc. Those steps or those actions will be stored as a coding part. Let me show you the magic, what exactly it does. I'll go to this Visual Basic, I'll click on this button and I'll just maximize this. I'll keep on clicking on different sheets, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. I'll just double click on this workbook. Okay, I'll click on this modules 1. click on module 1, module 2, module 3. If you observe under this module 3, if there was only one module, it would have selected module 1 itself. Now this is the code which was recorded at the backend. Okay, what it says, this is nothing but a sub procedure. Name of the macro is nothing but color macro. That's a sub procedure. That's again a name of the macro, color macro. And here this is the description. If you remember, this macro will color the cells into red. This is the shortcut keyboard shortcut which you have given. That is nothing but Control Shift O. And this is the actual code which you have recorded. These are the steps which you have recorded. By the way, this steps which are in the green color won't be executed because these are now commenting part. A single apostrophe sign says to your macro place, that means do not execute this code. Okay, this particular line do not execute. It is just for information purpose. Let us understand what this code says all about. Since I have not written a single line of code, this has been recorded. Here if you observe with selection dot interior, with selection in the sense whichever cell I have selected, that interior data, what it should do is it should do the coloring part, and that's a color code for yellow color. That is dot color equal to 65535. So that is the color code for yellow color itself. And these are some more set of actions or steps which are recorded. Okay, so this is how a backend macro will be recorded, but it has some limitation. You cannot go beyond a certain point. You need to take a help of writing a macro. You need to take up help of VB part, and how do we work on this VB part itself. Okay, so that is the second part of macros. Okay, so I hope you have understood a simple example of how do we record a macro into Excel file. Okay, after you record a macro file or record a macro, make sure you save the file with the extension as .xlsm. When you save this with .xlsm, recorded macros will be stored into this macro workbook. Okay, so I hope you have understood a simple example of how to record a macro. And that's all for this video.